Thank you. With the permission of distinguished rabbis, activists, and others, I was invited here in my long-standing capacity of combating. I was invited here in my long-standing capacity of combating gender-related abuse domestically and abroad, something I've been involved in for over 7 years. In response to pleas for help from leading rabbis, activists, and families of girls suffering in Israel, I'm here to reveal what I know and what the Israeli military wants to hide. Israel is one of the few countries that drafts girls, 18-year-old girls, into the military. Furthermore, in some cases, women even serve in combat units, and even in some cases, they serve in mixed units. It is indisputable that the IDF is seriously afflicted with gender-based harassment, exploitation, and abuse. Army generals concur. The Israeli military does not need women. Again, the Israeli military does not need women. Just like the American military, for many things, admits that they do not need women, and they do not draft women. The women erode the military. They impede combat readiness and military effectiveness. Just talk to a soldier who saw combat on the front with women. The IDF does not need women in the army. It's the men that run the IDF. It's the men that run the military that need the women. The women are needed not for security. They're not needed for military readiness. They're needed for toeva by the men who run the military. That's why the women are there. In Israeli parlance, the women are mizron sahali. They're there just for the men. And it's about time that this becomes public. Because when a girl runs into a problem with a superior, making advancements against her, harassing her, abusing her, often there is a tremendous amount of pressure put on her. She's scared to death, literally, of revealing what happened. And I know from dealing intimately with specific situations where this has happened without revealing details. In general, it's well known that gender-based misconduct and abuse are endemic to military life, especially wherever girls are forced into the military service. Military hierarchies and zero tolerance for dissent often enable gender-related abuse and deterrence detection. There is no excuse for tolerance of systemic abuse of exploitation of women and girls, either by the IDF or any other military, regardless of one's views on other matters. For further reference, one may want to see the Jerusalem Post, November 20th, 2018. There is no excuse for forcing, terrorizing, tricking, or harassing girls or boys out of their legal entitlements to exemptions from military service, be they religious exemptions or otherwise. There is no excuse for forcing girls to submit to degrading exams under the pretext of military medical protocols. There is no excuse for forcing girls to sit in jail just because they were late with their paperwork and refuse to violate their religion or their personal modesty by enlisting. There is no excuse for ignoring complaints of gender-based abuse in the IDF or covering them up, as the IDF did with Rinas Basteto. There is no excuse for trying to silence her with solitary confinement and psychological warfare for 39 days in military prison, as reported in the Jewish press, March 1st, page 15. There is no excuse for stalking 16 and 17-year-old girls online determined moving to trick out of their religious exemptions. There is no excuse for running the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, like a human trafficking ring, and treating females in the military as mizron sahali, regardless of their religion or lack thereof. There is no excuse for abusing law to persecute whistleblowers, as in the arrest this week of 3 ladies with homicide. As you know, or you may know, in recent years, an international network of volunteers has been assisting young Israeli women in protecting themselves from exploitative and dangerous encounters with men in the Israeli military by simple prevention. These volunteers, mostly women, provide girls who are summoned to draft officers with the information they need on how to secure their rights to military service exemptions under Israeli law. Homicide and other such heroic first responder volunteer networks must be allowed to continue their vital work. unimpeded by government intimidation, harassment, and persecution. And ultimately, the drafting of women of any religious background must end. The Brisker Rov was even more vociferously opposed to the drafting of non-religious girls than religious girls. For many women, it's a religious imperative in that serving in the Israeli military is against Jewish law, and one is obligated to give up one's life not to do so. But for everybody, it's a humanitarian imperative. For every single woman, anything less than the betrayal of the women of Israel, religious and otherwise. Thank you very much.
Al-Khamsai, Yerushalayim, Evkalet Yishoimem, Leiter Nushim Titkuni, Al-Khamsai, Regaim Al-Osut Messias Nefesh,